DZA is a CPA firm based out of Spokane, Washington. We specialize in rural healthcare and providing auditing and cost reporting services. I'm a senior manager with the firm, been with the firm for several years, and I've worked with your facility on your facilities audit for fiscal years 2023 and 24.
Ted, do you want to do the pledge? And Ben, are you willing to pray?
Yes.
Would you? Oh, would you say extra bit of Sally Colberly?
Sally Colberly?
He passed away today, and she was a longtime employee of the hospital.
Okay, sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, guys. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this time that we can gather together. We thank you for all the blessings we have. We thank you for this week of celebration that we have towards you. And we thank you for this hospital and employees that work here. We ask that you be with Sally, family, as they had this loss, and be with this situation and help this be a time when they look closer to you. And Lord, we ask that you help all in this community to see the importance of keeping this hospital open and doing all we can as a community to save this hospital. Please give us wisdom and strength. In the name we pray. Lord Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Okay, so next up is visitor comments. Does anybody have any comments? You're in later, okay. Does anybody have any comments online? Okay, so no visitor comments? Okay. Okay, so it's Daniel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Him in the picture.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yes, there he is, right here.
Hello.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Do you need me to do anything to help you get started, or are you ready to start?
No, I think I'm ready to go if you're ready for me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a few reports to go over with you today. And just before I really dive into things, just as a bit of a brief introduction, DZA is a CPA firm based out of Spokane, Washington. We specialize in rural healthcare and providing auditing and cost reporting services. I'm a senior manager with the firm, been with the firm for several years, and I've worked with your facility on your facilities audit for fiscal years 2023 and 24. So with that, I'll share my screen. And what I have to cover with you today is an overview of the financial statements and auditors' reports. There's also a few other letters that were included in our financial statement packet. There's a board communication letter that includes a few additional disclosures to the board, and then an advisory letter that includes a few comments that we'll look at when we get there. So starting with the auditor's report, and again, just to preface all of this is to really just say that this is for fiscal year 2024, and our audit findings and the results of the audit, in our opinion, our disclaimer of opinion, are for fiscal year 2024 and circumstances that existed for that time period. I think the fact that we were able to get as far as we did for 2024 since Paul and his team have joined the hospital says a lot about him and his team, that we were able to get as far as we did in such a short amount of time. So that said, looking at the auditor's report for 24, we've issued what's called a disclaimer of opinion on the financial statements. We were engaged to audit the financial statements, and part of that involves issuing an opinion on whether or not we believe the financial statements to be materially accurate, essentially. For 2024, what we ran into is that we were unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to provide a basis for that kind of audit opinion. And so we disclaim an opinion, which means we do not express an opinion. This isn't necessarily saying that the financial statements included here are misstated or that they're inaccurate. It's saying that we can't determine if they are accurate or if they are stated accurately. What drove this disclaimer and the lack of sufficient appropriate audit evidence, it really comes down to the circumstances that existed in fiscal year 2024. There was a lot of turnover in management and key personnel, pretty turbulent times for the facility. And so as a result, there was a lack of sufficient internal controls over transaction cycles and account reconciliations. And there was the supporting documents and audit evidence wasn't appropriately maintained during that time period. And I'd also add that one of the biggest drivers for the disclaimer of opinion is just the timing of the deadlines. In order to issue a report and issue this at all by April 1st, it just wasn't possible for management to go back into 2024 and find the right supporting reports within that time period. So we're left with a disclaimer of opinion in order to issue our reports on time. All that said, that this doesn't necessarily need to be set in stone. It is possible in the future, if that audit evidence could be obtained and was provided to us, we could reissue a report on 2024 that would include an audit opinion. But again, that's dependent on if that evidence was obtained and provided to us, and we need to go through audit procedures at that point. And I would also add that this does not affect your 2023 financial statements. So when you're looking at the auditor's report, everything that talks about a disclaimer of opinion and any modifications to the report are centered on 2024. 2023 isn't impacted. Any questions about any of that before I move on? So in the auditor's report, we include this basis for disclaimer of opinion that kind of reiterates everything that I talked about, a lack of sufficient appropriate audit evidence. And specifically, this is centered around your patient accounts receivable, net patient service revenue, and the classification of certain expenses. And when we say classification of certain expenses, that just means when you're looking at your income statement and you see, for example, line items that say salaries and wages or employee benefits or professional fees, it's whether or not transactions have been appropriately sorted into those categories and line items on your financials. So that just wanted to emphasize it's the classification of those expenses that is the issue, not necessarily the total expenses themselves. The rest of the auditor's report dealing with 2023 is going to look pretty similar to what you would have received in prior years. And then, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can scroll a little bit faster. Your financial statements themselves, your statement of net position or your balance sheet. This is where we see the patient accounts receivable line up here in your assets section. I'll zoom in a little bit here. And
I
then,
see you.
I'm sorry?
I said, thank you.
The patient accounts receivable line, this is one of the drivers for the disclaimer of opinion, just that we could not determine if this balance was accurate. And just because, I mean, as a hospital, there's so many things driven by patient accounts receivable and patient revenue that it impacts multiple areas throughout the financial statements. On the income statement, where you see the net patient service revenue line up here in operating revenues, and a total net income for 2024 of a total net loss of $3.5 million. The cash flow statement is the next financial statement. This is really just another way of looking at your balance sheet and income statement and trying to convert it to cash coming in and going out for these different line items. If there is anything that you see in the cash flows statement, any questions that result from looking at these balances can normally just be resolved by looking at the change in income statement or balance sheet line items.
Can you blow that up?
Yes. So yeah, thank you. So cash flows from operating activities, $321,000. So you do have a positive cash flow from operating activities in 24 compared to 2023. The rest of this report really centers around the notes to the financial statements, and these notes serve a couple different purposes. Note 1 talks about the reporting entity and significant accounting policies. This is going to look similar to what you've seen in prior years. The reporting entity includes the foundation. So the numbers that you see on those financial statements include foundation balances. The foundation isn't significant compared to the hospital as a whole, so it doesn't have a large impact on those numbers, but just so you're aware, it does include foundation balances. And then summary of significant accounting policies. If you have any questions about how different transactions are treated throughout the financial statements, this would be the first place to look, is note 1B. Note 2 is where we provide a little bit more context on the disclaimer of opinion and the limitations in supporting audit evidence. And it includes a bit of a disclaimer in this last paragraph as well. And what I wanted to highlight is, because as auditors, we weren't able to obtain that evidence, and we've issued a disclaimer of opinion, and we cannot determine if items are materially stated or not. We included this sentence that just says that users of the financial statement should use caution when relying on these balances. When you look at these numbers, it might not necessarily be accurate. The rest of the footnote disclosures are going to look very similar to what you've seen in prior years and just provide more context on significant transactions and balances that show up on your financial statements. At the very end of this report is another auditor's report on internal control. This contains a few disclosures on how, as in accordance with government auditing standards, we're required to consider internal controls over financial reporting. And this defines what we would consider to be deficiencies in internal controls. So a material weakness deficiency is a deficiency that essentially what it means is there's a reasonable possibility that whatever caused the material weakness could cause a material misstatement in future balances. Significant deficiency is a deficiency in internal control that it's defined as less severe than a material weakness, but more important enough to be brought to your attention. There were 2 audit findings that we consider to be material weaknesses. The first one is on internal controls over financial reporting. And again, just want to reiterate, these are the circumstances that existed at fiscal year 2024 year end. And so at that time, there were not sufficient internal controls over financial reporting, account reconciliations, or retaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence.
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
And again, just want to reiterate, these are the circumstances that existed at fiscal year 2024 year end. And so at that time, there were not sufficient internal controls over financial reporting, account reconciliations, or retaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. And this led to, it's very closely related to the second finding as well, which is auditor detected journal entries, because there were significant issues with internal controls throughout the year. There were a lot of adjustments that were required during the audit in order to bring accounts to the right balances as far as possible. So on these findings, our recommendations on here, it really just centers around the fact that the hospital has taken steps to correct these in our discussions with management throughout the audit, and especially in these last few months. It seems like the hospital is taking the correct steps to correct these findings and to address these and to wrap things up and reconcile things as much as possible. So that's what our recommendation includes, is essentially to keep working on reconciling those balances and improving internal controls. On the next page, we'll see management's response to the finding, which provides more detail and essentially revolves around the same thing, that there are steps that are being taken to address these findings. It is an ongoing process, but improvements are being made. And very similar for the second finding, the auditor detected journal entries. When we say an auditor detected journal entries, that means that as a result of our audit procedures, there was an adjustment that was necessary to a specific balance. And there were multiple of these for 2024 that had a pretty significant impact on the balances. Again, very closely related to internal controls. So our recommendation and management's response should be very similar there. Any questions about the financial statements or any of the findings? All right. Well, then the last two items that I have for you, and these won't take very long to cover, just because we've already talked about the big items, I think. The advisory letter contains two recommendations that we noticed from our audit. These are not considered audit findings, but they are just items that we wanted to bring to your attention. Policies and procedures for federal awards. There aren't currently any written policies and procedures tracking federal awards, and the hospital's federal grants and awards aren't very significant as well. But if in the future you were to obtain significant federal funding, you would want to make sure you have written policies and procedures in place to track those. Year-end inventory counts. This was another area where the audit evidence wasn't present, but we were able to perform alternative procedures to kind of get around that. But we do recommend that year-end inventory counts those records are maintained after year-end as auditable evidence. And the last letter is the board communication letter. This includes additional disclosures from us as auditors to the board. You'll see more discussion on the disclaimer of opinion on the financial statements, reiterates a lot of what is in note 2 to the financials, and specifically defines it as a scope limitation. It also discloses that we did consider if there were alternative audit procedures we could perform in these cases. Just due to the timing and the information available, that unfortunately wasn't possible. The rest of the letter is pretty standardized disclosures, and should look pretty similar to prior years. But I did want to point out on the last page, we have these bullet points under items that we've identified for specific audit attention. And I wanted to point this piece out because this is something that we come up with, these bullet points during the planning phase of the audit. So regardless of the results of an audit, you're going to see something similar to this on our letter because we're disclosing the areas that we design our audit procedures to focus on. So while these did result in audit findings, this is us saying that we've we've considered these, we focused our audit procedures on these, and we're disclosing that to you. That is all that I had to go over with you today. Are there any questions?
Appreciate it, Daniel. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
And thank you for getting it done today.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat on the phone or meet again if there's any questions that you have. And also just wanted to say thanks to Paul and his team for helping us work through this as well.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't leave yet, Dan.
Don't leave quite yet.
Stay after school.
You got it.
Could you talk to us just a little bit about what you need to have happen and what we need to do for the 2025, 2024, 2025 audit?
Yeah, so the 2024 audit is completed. Like I said, if there was the evidence that we were missing for those pieces provided, we could go back and reissue a report. At this point, I think our focus should be on completing the 2025 audit, and then we could come back to 24 at that point. For 25, we have established a timeline to make sure that happens we're issuing by July 1st. So in order for that to happen, and we've discussed this with Paul, so correct me if I'm misstating anything, Paul. In order for that to happen, we'll need all the supporting evidence for our audit within the next 2 weeks. And then it will be about an 8 to 10 week turnaround for us to work through those items and resolve any issues that come up with Paul and his team.
417.
417, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Problem.
So we agreed on the call the other day that in committing to the July 1 date to send to the state auditor, obviously we need it like 2 or 3 days before, right, Dan? That
Right.
the 17th, is that what you said, Paul? Having
That's correct.
a bunch of documents to them, as much as we can give DZAs to start their audit with what they have until at that time, and not wait for anything else in order to commit meeting that date of July 1 in the state auditor's hands.
Yep, and I'll be making sure that my team is on task and working through things as quickly as possible and communicating anything to Paul and his team that needs to be communicated. And if anything looks like it's missing, we'll be sure to be on top of that.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
We'll supply all the coffee you need.
I'll take you up on that. Careful what you promise.
Anything else for Sean? Daniel? Sorry. Oh, for something. Don't tell Sean I said that.
I just have a quick question. Being that some of our information was incomplete in 2024, is that going to affect our 2025 audit then? As far as missing information?
It's a little bit hard to say at this point. I think if we run into the same scenario where those reports just weren't retained or management just can't track down the right information, then yes, it would result in a similar audit result. But it's a little hard to say until we've been able to actually work through the data.
It may. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Okay, you have to vote.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we need a motion and then we need discussion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2024 audit.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Good. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the fiscal 2024 audit. Do we have any discussion?
The only thing I have to say is a huge thank you to Paul and his team and Emma for all the hard work that you have done to get this completed and all the hard work that you're going to do in the next 2 weeks to get 2025 kicked off. And thank you to DZA for your expedited timeline and your strong, unwavering commitment to 8 to 10 weeks.
To quality.
I know it hasn't been easy for anybody on this 2024 audit, and I appreciate the work that's been done. Anyway, so are we ready to vote? Yep. So all those in favor of approving the fiscal 24 audit, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Okay, so we have approved it, and let's get it sent to the state.
All right, push send, Paul, please.
Send it now. Which is about.
I will right now. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Paul.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're paroled.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to our, and I'm not sure it's a letter to the county commissioners, but I didn't quite know, letter to the Weston County / commissioners.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had invited Ed Wagner, who is a county commissioner here. He might make a statement.
Okay.
If he would like to.
Yep. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd like to speak in two different capacities. Now, one, the first is a county commissioner. After our commission meeting last week, it seemed like they was headed down a road that was not going to be beneficial to anybody. But the way state statutes can be interpreted by one attorney versus another, you can have 5 attorneys look at it and you will have 5 opinions. And until it comes in front of a judge, that's your opinions. So I reached out to the governor's office last week, and I don't like to use the word beg, but I did. Try to get this resolved. He was working with Drew Perkins is the governor's chief of staff. He was working with the audit department of audit, trying to get something resolved, timelines, at least extended or whatever. I did receive a phone call today. There's going to be a letter coming out today, they said, addressed to the board here, that they're going to extend the timeline. So to put our resolution on hold so we don't move forward with that. That's where we're at with that on the commissioner side. I reached out to the governor's office and they were very receptive to working with this, so that was on that side of it there. Now, Madam Chair, may I speak on a personal as a citizen?
Absolutely.
I look at this here as this hospital is our business. Everybody in this county, it's our business. We are all a very small shareholder in this business. And it is the duty of the board that's in place to run our business correctly. In 2024, the directors board here dropped the ball big time. I mean, it's no excuses. I mean, just you're in a position to run our business correctly, and the ball was dropped.
I don't think the county commissioner's intent is to close down the hospital. I'm
Well, they
dead
wouldn't
serious.
say that they did it. They would say the Department of Audit and the
Audit did
hospital through its
Right.
its failures, that the hospital and the Department of Audit did it, and they were just
Right.
the instrument, which is true, but they could be an instrument of
to
defiance.
help save it. Right. That's they need to be the instrument to help save it.
There's a reason that state law says the county commission shall do. And let me and we'll end on this, okay? The law says the county commission shall take this measure, not to force the county commission to take this step, but to make it clear that only the county commission can take this step. The reason the law is written with the county commission shall is so that the state does not shut down a hospital, a water district, a something else.
In 2024, the directs board here dropped the ball big time. I mean, it's no excuses. I mean, just you're in a position to run our business correctly, and the ball was dropped. Everybody that I was visiting with in the governor's office did that there. They were, say the word, would be nice about it. They were not very impressed with the way things were ran and the accountability that was held. In our county right now, we're holding our elected officials to accountability. There was no accountability held at that point in time. So that's where I feel. That's my personal opinion as the citizen, not as a commissioner. So I'm speaking to the citizen on that. So hopefully I brought you some good news tonight with the letter that's going to be coming out. But I did a lot of phone calling, a lot of begging, and I don't like to beg, especially not on my behalf. So,
Well, we were. Thank
so that's
you.
where we're at with that.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, I'll answer any questions if I can, or for you guys.
I just want to say, I think truly in our hearts, when we were talking at the last meeting, we knew that it wasn't the commissioner's desire to dissolve the district. And, you know, we kept hoping that something would come through, that we would get an extension. And that's why the discussion came about as far as appealing to the commissioners and to Weston County people that, you know, we're all in the same boat here.
Yeah, but it would do, I can't imagine how much expense and work it would take to, if it could even get done again, a district be informed again, or put on, mill levy be passed again. I mean, that
damage being done in the meantime. I mean, it's just,
yeah, if we lose, my fear is if we lose the funding of the district, the hospital will close. I mean, that is not what do anybody any good all the way. The trickle down effect it would have in our community would be devastating. So, yes.
First of all, I appreciate your efforts, Ed. And I couldn't agree with you more about, and we all agree in this room, I believe, that there's a lot of mismanagement that's led to this point. But this board's been putting in, our employees have been putting in a lot of effort to get us out of this hole for a while now. So we appreciate the extension so we can continue that effort. But I think we all agree that there was a lot of mismanagement going on at that point, and that it led here for many different reasons. And, we just can't let this happen again. So thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to thank Ed, Drew Perkins in the governor's office for helping us through this. I know other people have made a lot of phone calls, other commissioners and other people in the community, but Ed, I think, called the right person at the right time and pulled some favors that maybe he has to give back now. I don't know. You know, Drew's the next county commissioner, if I remember right. Is now on the governor's staff. Ed begged to him. He understood small town. He also understood small hospital, and it called the right person at the right time, I guess. So thank you, Ed.
Yes,
You're welcome.
thank you.
I appreciate it. Again, that we're here, we're elected to serve the people, and that's how I felt what needed to be done.
You did well. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so, is there anything else? I'm gonna go grab some dinner.
Yeah.
And warm up.
What you can do.
Yeah, but we have a buffet here.
Got kind of cold soccer game. Warm up, so.
Who won?
Tied.
Tied.
Me too.
What grade?
Third school.
Breeze. Okay.
Third school, so.
Bob ball.
Well, no, the middle school's pretty good.
Yeah. Still bob ball.
No, they actually played pretty good.
Good, good.
They've got some ways to go, but they got them together what they need to do. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna run.
Thank
You guys have a good evening.
Thank you, good son.
I'll let you, never mind. You go first.
So where should we go?
Good night.
Yeah.
Well, I would move that we don't need to have the next discussion anyway. I don't know about the final one, but the letter to Weston County Commissioners, I think, is a moot point at this point.
I had a thought, then I lost it. Hopefully we regain it in the meantime. Maybe it wasn't my thought, but you stirred a thought. Maybe to write a thank you note to the commissioners and the community for helping.
That'd be fine.
So the original intent of your letter was to appeal to the community.
Yep.
I think that perhaps along the lines of the intent is we issue a little bit of a statement of explanation of what we're doing to ensure to them that we've been working to make this right. There's a lot of things that we all are aware of that have been going on, and work that's been done by the entire team here. And I think that maybe a brief letter to the community letting them know the things that we put in place might be appropriate.
Yeah, I would say, so my intent of my letter was,
It was more for the community.
well, it was more for me than it was intended to be. That's the way I wrote it. And I realized after, it didn't take long to realize that wasn't fair for me to ask the rest of you to sign up to my own statements. So, yeah, I would agree that if the board agrees to provide a little information to the public of what, that'd be great. I think the intent of what I was doing is a moot point at this point with what the commissioners have done. But a thank you and an explanation, that would work. But
I think the public.
Go ahead, Mary.
I think the public needs to know that
Right.
that the extension has been granted, and that what we're doing is,
We should have asked Ed.
And that we're
was
working to make it right.
and that we're working to make it right. And for the past 2 years, since this board was formed, we've been diligently working towards good financial information and
Accurate financial information.
accurate and.
Not only that, but what you guys have put together and put in place that never happens again.
Right.
So I think that is
Can't
important.
say that though.
I mean, working
Right.
towards
Never happened.
that never happening again.
Try to plan for this board, and for moving forward in terms of a compliance calendar that not only finance and the entire, Weston County Health Service organization can use to plan, but also a compliance calendar that this board can use to hold the team accountable to deadlines. And that is a huge step for us. And I think that's important for people to know.
Which we need to see that calendar or list of Paul at some point.
Sure, absolutely. I can send around this week.
Okay, thank you, Ted.
We hope this never happens again.
Right, absolutely.
And part of the
Just
confusion was one lawyer, Allison may be right. I don't know who's right and wrong. This is what I would like to solve. I would like to maybe have the county attorney. I know Allison had talked to the state attorney general's office, or I understand she did. I don't know what her answer was or whether she got an answer. But our county attorney is the only one in the county that can ask for an opinion. Now, realizing an opinion, it's still just an opinion,
Right,
but it is based on law.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, I was going to suggest that earlier before I had talked to Ed.
Right.
That would help in the future, maybe, to maybe have a little more clarification, and so there wasn't so much confusion. Hopefully we never cross that line again.
Right, yes, but it's still, good.
And
good.
an opinion doesn't cost anything. It may take
Just
him a
like-
while to get to it, but Allison may have some thoughts on that too. She's the one that talked to, I did not talk to the Attorney General's office.
Right, yeah.
I think Allison is gone.
Nope.
Well, as far as, to me, along those lines, if the county attorney presents it to the state attorney, somebody has to make it. It can't just go in limbo. Someone has to decide
Well,
what that statute actually says.
yeah, good advice.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and Allison seemed to think there was lapse in state law. That, okay, if there is actually the Attorney General and Allison, if they find a lapse, maybe that hole can be fixed so that there is no lapse. I don't know.
Well, that was my thought. Is I think it still behooves us to ask the county commissioners to formally request an opinion from the Attorney General. And, maybe they did include to include the hospital districts. I think that it is kind of problematic, but as I read it, the statute does not include them. So getting the county commissioners to formally request a AG opinion, which would come through your county attorney, would be very beneficial to us. But additionally, I think the statute needs some rework. And, outside of my role as your attorney, I'd like to work with the legislature based on what we've experienced to try and make this better and give the county commissioners more leeway in how they handle these matters in the future for other entities.
Yeah.
I think that would be an excellent idea. I will propose that to Commissioner tonight.
I agree with everything that was said. I also think that we just got to get the audits done.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Because it feeds into the cost reports.
Right.
So I think we work in parallel tracks always.
Yeah.
To
Totally agree.
the clarity that we get
But
the
a
audit.
plan to make sure that it never happens again is an important step as well. So, yeah.
I'm with you,
Yeah.
but it
But-
won't
but
if we
we-
get the audits done.
Right,
I agree.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we do our job and get the audits done,
Yeah.
then it won't happen again.
But the backstop, as you're pointing out, just in case, we should clarify and have this determined.
But Paul's gonna get you more information out, but these are just ideas I just wanted to show you, these are the things that he's working on.
Oh.
It's pretty concrete, there's deadlines, there's who's responsible, and that's the kind of thing that we need, I think.
Which we
Um,
haven't had since we've been on.
Agreed. Agreed, there's lists of things that need to be done, he's really taken a massive step forward where I don't think in the past 2 years we've come anywhere close to where we are now. And that's important to know. So,
And I think with Pat's expertise in that area, working with I think that will happen then. With that can be resolved.
I mean, they're like rough draft,
If he's
so
gonna send them out.
I just wanted you to know that this, like, we're well along the lines of this. It isn't a pipe dream. So, this is what he's working towards. So,
Right. And like I said, I think him working with Pat and what she's seen in the past, that can easily be remedied.
Agreed.
I just have a comment. I don't, and I already told you this, but I don't know if any of you were able to listen to the podcast with Ann and the newsletter journal, but I just want to make a positive statement that the newsletter on this issue is pretty much totally in support of us. And so I think that's a big hurdle that we don't have to try to leaf over as well.
This place is full of love. You can tell the people that like to be with old people because they really take care of you good and are very kind.
Twice a day, every day, the activities people have an organized activity that's always interesting.
Everybody loves to play bingo. We play it 3 times a week here. We also have ceramics that you can paint. Really pleasant to live here. It's a good place to be.
Told you this, but I don't know if any of you were able to listen to the podcast with Ann and the newsletter journal, but I just want to make a positive statement that the newsletter on this issue is pretty much totally in support of us. And so I think that's a big hurdle that we have to try to leap over as well.
We'll just ask.
Can you go to get on that podcast? Can you go to their site, or is it a YouTube thing? Or
You can, if you go on the newsletter journal site and click on top of main podcast, then it will give you links to go to Spotify and
Which when I tried to do that, I couldn't get it. I don't know what my problem was, but when
It's
Nate
on
sent out,
YouTube.
I think
I sent a link. Yeah, I sent a link to all of you to the podcast. It's on your email. Yeah, that's
when did you send it? Because I
yesterday.
Yesterday.
I sent it yesterday.
Oh, I need to talk to Wendy. I don't get a lot of emails.
Do you want me to send it to a personal email? Yeah.
Was that after
I'll send it to you tonight.
She sent it.
Was that after Ben's letter?
No, I sent it on an email to your
She
hospital.
sent in the email.
And except for
Denise.
you don't get your hospital email, so
I do too.
It's not Ben's letter.
I certainly do.
I don't. But I had Wendy work on things yesterday and
The dates can,
tied up, but I.
the dates can bear that because
I can't.
our RSVP or
Ask for different passports.
did not the name.
starting
Oh.
to go.
I just,
Nightmare.
my
So
wheel chalk.
back in order here. So should we work on how do we want to get this letter done? So what I have down right now, that I have thank you to the commissioners, and then our plan. I wrote down accurate financial info. I don't know where that came from.
I mentioned that when you were talking ideas and
Okay.
somebody said financials, I think I said accurate.
Oh, okay.
Financial.
Thank you to the commissioners, the plan going forward with accurate financial info. And ask the county attorney to talk to, or ask the county commissioners to have the county attorney, which I'll do that first, so you all call me. But okay, ask attorney general. So how do we do this? I kind of had a plan for going forward the other direction, and now I don't know how to go forward this direction.
I'm sorry, are you talking about a letter to the public
Yeah,
right now?
I think so.
So
Splash.
what is your opinion of doing in the form of a letter to the editor?
We should just do.
Well, I think that it can be factual that the hospital board wanted to inform the community. I appreciate their help. We did get an extension for the audit. As of tonight, the 24 audit is completed, signed, and sent to the state. The 25 audit is being worked on as we speak, or however you want to put that. And the deadline that, or our intention is to have it to the state by July 1st which I understand meets their deadlines.
Yes, well, I don't know if it meets their deadlines, but at
Or-
least it gets it done before fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the April 1st is the deadline for the 25, but we
And that turned out to be kind of an arbitrary date.
Well,
I don't think so.
July.
I don't
No.
think so.
It says, yeah, but he picked.
He's the
Yeah.
Department of Revenue said, well, whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't think it is arbitrary. I think
No, it does mention that.
Yeah.
It does mention that. You're correct.
So maybe what we should do is, if you guys are okay with it, can I go forward and I'll just write this letter and get it to the paper and go ahead, Carrie.
Madam Chair, I was going to suggest too that we have a very competent CEO and a great marketing person on staff that we could just ask them to do that.
Or we have something for you. But I don't want to go in without you approving it.
Yeah. No, quite, but then I got paranoid after about like I kind of like, I don't want to make, we can't be making decisions on text, or I would know. So I think what would be better if you guys will go, so with the plan, we'll go, thank you to the commissioners. We have a plan moving forward. We've got the audit in, gonna get the next audit done. And ask the county commissioners to get an opinion from the attorney general. If everybody is good with those points, I say let Pat and I work on it. You guys approve us right now doing a letter like that. Pat and I will work on it and we'll get it out. Great.
Now, this is to the commissioners
To the people.
or to the, or
Yeah,
to both?
to Weston County.
Well, I'm thinking on your last deal of getting the Attorney General's opinion. You can just address that part of the community letter, but it needs to be.
Okay, so you can talk to Marty, but I will give Nathan a call.
I agree.
As
I agree. The more, yes, I agree.
Is that a good idea?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
So when you put the letter out, are you gonna put it signed by the board of trustees, or are you gonna list everybody's name?
Which do you think is?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Just have it come from the Weston County Hospital. It's a factual.
I think it should come.
Or the board.
You should just sign it the board and not all of our names, right?
So
Is that fair?
are we gonna be able to see it? before?
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, it's
Right.
not that I don't trust you. I
know.
just kinda like to read what I'm doing.
What you're signing.
You're putting your name
Well,
to it.
yeah.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
And so I think we should definitely send it out, but we can't,
Collaborate.
And Allison.
oh, Allison's right here. Allison. Thank you, Pat.
That's one famous person said you.
Maybe she
You
could
gotta
send
sign
it
it
out,
before you
since
read it.
it's not the daisy chain. Yeah. Allison, are you there, Dawn?
Are you there, Allison?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, you either need to authorize the letter and have the board chair and the CEO authorize it, or you need to have another meeting to approve the letter if you don't want to delegate that authority.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what we ran into this last one. Obviously, it wasn't gonna work the way we're trying to do it. I mean,
So I actually
time crunch.
problem with making a motion to have Ann and Pat draft it, and then Mary, if you're uncomfortable with that, she can sign it as the chair instead of signing it as the board.
Yes,
It's up to you.
Well,
Are you more comfortable with that?
that's fine. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just
understand.
I mean, I'm really trying to contact.
No, both in the same boat. I think we all are.
What about you write it
Mhm.
and it's in Denise's office and I can just come by and read it?
That's what I was
What would
thinking.
be wrong?
If you say it and see nothing wrong with it, then
Would that be all right?
Does that work, Allison?
I would think we could send it out, or she could send out a draft.
Sorry, can you repeat it? Yeah.
So if they drafted a letter, Pat and Ann, and they copied it, and a copy of that letter was in Denise's office. Could I just come by and read that letter?
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome to. The issue is having communications that are like sequential, right? So that could be email, but if you're going to have a lot of communications about it, then it needs to occur in a meeting.
So
You could lay it out there and have a deadline by which somebody, if they wanted to discuss it, needed to ask for a meeting. That would be okay.
Well, the commissioners are not meeting till the 7th. And it wouldn't make any difference whether they got what they get the 7th or a little later to the next meeting.
At this point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But to relieve maybe stress in the community, that portion or that letter or that ad in the paper, whatever you want to call it, probably needs to be a little more timely than in, let's say, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that the community knows.
Right. That's I think we need to get it done.
But I'll slip in, and as soon as you got it wrote or whatever, or put together, whenever, I'd be glad to slip it down.
Yeah, you can email it as long as we don't all hit reply all.
Yeah.
So
that's
are you comfortable if I make that motion?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
So,
Madam Chair,
just one second, real quick. But Mary, I feel the same way. I mean, you put my name on my.
Well,
So I mean, it's not.
You shouldn't feel bad about it. I get it.
That's what I'm saying. I would.
So I'm gonna make the motion, Mary, and tell me if the phrasing doesn't sound right, okay? All of you, not just Mary, which I'm sure you will. Madam Chair, I make a motion that Madam Chair and Pat write a letter to the Weston County community and have it come from the
Draft a letter.
just draft a letter for the board.
For the board.
Draft a letter for the board to the community.
Yeah, a second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay. Okay. So we will work on that. And I will give Nathan a call. And
Matt, I just have one comment. Maybe it would be nice for as many of us as can be at the board meeting on the 7th of the county commissioners, and express our things personally. I don't think there would be anything wrong with that
I think that's probably a good idea.
yeah, that's good.
I'd be happy to go too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you for thinking of that. Okay. And Allison, we don't need to worry about number 7, do we?
I would suggest we wait, and if there's a problem, we'll initiate it. As soon as you get a letter, it would be helpful to get that so we can call off the dogs. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I got it during conversation.
Oh, did you not?
So you want to be on
Yeah.
Ted?
I will.
You can get the
You
update.
said you wanted
Yeah,
to wait
that was-
number 7.
I could pick this up yesterday. It's changed since then.
You guys changed.
So I'm sorry.
Okay, did you want to see what the number 7?
No,
was?
I did read it.
Okay. Okay. What I think we should adjourn the meeting.
Ben,
make a
who's your
motion to
stat?
adjourn.
Oh, that would be
Sorry.
great.
Oh, Ben.
No, please go ahead. Oh, you're Dottie.
Dottie had moved to
I make a
adjourn.
motion
and
to
who's-
adjourn.
I'll second it. How's that?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and my discussion is make sure we have a little bit of what Denise brought to eat, because that wasn't very nice. It's not to eat it when she got it. So, thank you.
I was just trying to make the meeting.
No, but now, all those in
Thank
favor
you.
of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All those-
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.